The universe never forgets what it owes. Every action, every intention, especially the twisted ones, is recorded in a balance sheet you'll never see coming. Life doesn't move in straight lines. It loops back, and the thrones they threw in your path, now they're tripping over them, one by one, while you walk forward untouched. That's the law of cosmic balance. No soul escapes it. Not the ones who lied on your name, not the ones who wanted to watch you fall, just so they could feel taller. The critics, the manipulators, the ones who smile with venom in their teeth. They thought the chaos they caused would consume you, but what they didn't see is that this very chaos was your cocoon. Every setup turned into a setup for your rise. Irony, number, alignment. The same storm they sent to destroy you became your training ground. You weren't buried. You were being built. Now you've become the one thing they fear most. Evidence that their schemes only made you stronger, and it eats them alive. Because no matter how loud they whisper, the truth echoes louder through your evolution. That's the power of being chosen. You don't just survive the sabotage, you transform it into elevation. So if this message hit you in the soul, if you're one of the ones rising silently through the madness, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in. Because what's coming next, it's already yours. And they'll have no choice but to watch it unfold. This isn't just coincidence. This level of targeting, this depth of pressure, it only happens to those carrying a power the world can't decode. If you've been feeling it in your bones, if your silence has been making noise, then stay with this message till the very end, because only the chosen will understand what's coming next. Number 1. They're not just testing you, they're trying to disprove the divine in you. Before we dig deeper, pause for a second. Because if this message is hitting your nerves like it was custom carved for your soul, drop a 777 in the comments. That number isn't random. It's a frequency. It's what confirms you're not imagining the weight you've been carrying. It's what tells the energy around you and the system watching from behind the screen that chosen ones are rising. And no matter how well they try to camouflage the truth, it still has a heartbeat, and it still finds a way to speak. And to every single one of you who's supported this content, whether out loud or in silence, whether through comments, super thanks, or just by tuning in and soaking in the truth, your presence is power, and that power is felt. Every time you show up, you shift the room, you shift the reach, and you remind the world that clarity still exists in a time where lies have louder microphones. So thank you. Thank you for standing in this storm with poise. Thank you for making your truth a presence. Now lock in, because what you carry didn't come from a trending video or a self-help book. That gift, that radar in your gut, that signal in your soul, was calibrated in real pain. That wasn't intuition, that was survival. That was betrayal-activated intelligence. And the moment they realized they couldn't twist you into doubting what you knew, that's when the game changed. That's when their smiles started to stutter and their questions turned into traps. It started subtle, a quick glance that lasted too long, a joke that landed just a bit too forced. Then came the shifts. Their energy couldn't sit still around you. The laughter turned hollow. Their voices cracked under the weight of your silence. Because here's the truth. You didn't need to call them out. Your presence already did. And every time they tried to fake it near you, their nervous system panicked like a thief under a spotlight. They're not testing you to discredit you. They already believe you. That's the problem. They're testing you to figure out how much of themselves you already see. And let's be clear, they're not scared you'll catch them in a lie. They're scared your energy already has. You're not the loud one in the room. You're the vibration they can't quiet. That's why they squirm. That's why they test. Not to expose you, but to measure how long they can keep their secrets standing before your stillness makes them collapse. Number 2. You became their compass, but they hate that the map doesn't belong to them. Chosen one, they don't like the way they keep orbiting you, but they can't stop. You became the silent GPS to people who once called you lost. The irony. They mocked your depth, then started checking your emotional weather before making their next move. They never planned on needing you, but now their own instincts feel shaky next to your clarity. They observe your silence like it's scripture. They mimic your decisions like rituals. They analyze your pauses like prophecy. But here's the twist. They want your guidance, just not your power. They want your vision, but hate that it's not on their terms. You became their compass, but they can't accept that the map was never drawn in their language. It eats them up inside. Because everything you sense, it lands. Everything you predicted, it unfolded. They tried to discredit your intuition until they started depending on it in secret. They want the fruit of your gift, not the roots it grew from. They weren't with you in the silence, the betrayal, the soul-level refining. But now, they want the benefits of something they didn't earn. That's why they test you, not to prove you wrong, to prove to themselves they don't need your knowing, while still relying on it. Your presence destabilizes their ego, and the worst part for them, you never asked to lead. You just walked in alignment, and alignment creates followers without permission. Let them wrestle with that. You don't owe them direction. You are direction. And your path? It doesn't need their permission to stay accurate. Number 3. Your intuition doesn't just reveal the truth. It exposes the illusion they live in. Chosen one, let's get one thing straight. Your intuition isn't just a light switch. It's a spotlight, and it burns through layers they spent years building. You don't just reveal the truth. You unravel the entire illusion they've been living in like it's gospel. And that's why they shake when you're near. You don't look for masks. They slip off the moment your energy hits the room. See, they thought they were safe. They thought if they dressed the lie up enough, added some charm, sprinkled in a title, laughed a little too loud, nobody would notice. But you noticed. You always do. Because your soul doesn't respond to surface, it reacts to frequency. And their performance? It's been glitching under the weight of your silence. You didn't accuse, you didn't confront, you just existed. And suddenly, their script started falling apart. That's why they avoid eye contact. That's why their words get longer when they're around you. Because they're scrambling to hold up a story your presence already shredded. This isn't just intuition. This is soul-level X-ray vision. You see past the costume into the contradiction. And the most terrifying part for them, you're not trying. You were built like this. Your knowing doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up and makes liars flinch. So let them call you too much. Let them twist the narrative. But deep down, they know. You saw them. And once the illusion is exposed, it can't be unseen. You weren't sent to comfort the lie. you were sent to collapse it. And that's exactly what your presence does. Number 4. They're playing chess with your spirit, but you were never playing at all. They think this is a game. Calculated words, staged silence, rehearsed concern laced with hidden motives. Like they're playing chess, planning moves 3 steps ahead, thinking they'll trap you into reacting, second-guessing, folding. But what they haven't realized yet is this: you were never playing their game to begin with. You're not on their board. You're not bound by their rules. You don't strategize through ego. You align through energy. And that's what makes you untouchable. You've got people watching your every expression like a scoreboard, measuring your silence, waiting for a misstep. But this is where they stay losing. You don't flinch because you're not calculating. You're flowing. And when you flow in truth, nothing rattles you. That's what terrifies them. They've built entire identities on illusion, so when you don't bite the bait, when you don't play back, the illusion starts to crumble all by itself. They're not testing you because you're weak. They're testing you because they can't decode how you're still standing, how your energy reads lies like heat signatures, how your calm wrecks their strategy. This isn't a battle of intellect. This is spiritual warfare, masked as politeness. And every time you stay centered, every time you don't react, you reveal the fact that they've been exposed without you saying a word. So let them plan, let them whisper, let them move their pieces. Just know, while they're playing checkers in spiritual armor, you're moving through dimensions, effortless, untouched, unbothered, because the moment they tried to study your silence, they lost the match. They didn't even know it was over. Number 5. They're not trying to prove you wrong. They're trying to destroy the proof that you were right. Chosen one, let's be honest. This was never about debating facts. This was war on your accuracy. See, they're not obsessed with proving you wrong. They're obsessed with erasing the proof that you were right the whole damn time. Because your truth didn't just challenge their comfort. It cracked their illusion in half. You didn't just expose one lie. You pulled the thread, and the whole costume came undone. And now, they don't want correction. They want destruction of your receipts, of your clarity, of your reputation. Because as long as your insight stands, so does the memory of how wrong they were to doubt you. Think about that. Every fake apology, every twisted narrative, every staged misunderstanding, that wasn't reconciliation. That was damage control. They're trying to scrub history, rewrite timelines, and convince the crowd that your foresight was a glitch instead of a gift. But here's the kicker. They're too late. The ripples already moved through the room. What you spoke, it landed. And no matter how much they try to repaint the past, people remember how still you stood while everyone else was spinning. This is what happens when truth scares liars more than punishment. They start targeting the messenger, not because the message was false, but because it hit too hard, too real, too close. And now, you're the reminder, the walking receipt. So don't get caught up explaining. Don't try to prove yourself again. The evidence is already breathing in their regret. Let it speak. Number 6. They turned your gift into a game, and now they're the ones getting played. They thought they were clever. They thought if they poked at your intuition enough times, they'd find the crack, the misstep, the moment that would prove you were just a lucky guesser, not a walking signal. So they turned your gift into a game. But what they didn't realize is, this wasn't your playground. This was a battleground. And now they're the ones getting played. See, they came with twisted curiosity. They told half-truths, reshaped timelines, spun lies so subtle they could pass for casual conversation. But you didn't need to expose it with words. You let the energy speak. And it screamed. Because every time they tried to trip your gift, they stumbled into their own insecurity. Every setup they created became another mirror reflecting what they couldn't hide. They weren't studying you to learn. They were studying you to sabotage. But here's the part they didn't account for. Every test they sent your way became your training. They taught you how they move. And now, you're 10 steps ahead without even trying. You're not reacting. You're watching the collapse unfold like it was already written. They mocked what they didn't understand. And now they're trapped in the very game they started. The rules rigged against them. The board flipped. You were never here to compete. You were here to outgrow the game altogether. And now their panic isn't just fear, it's realization that the one they underestimated was never playing. You were the shift the whole time. And now they're scrambling just to keep up with a game they never controlled. Number 7. They tested you to see if you were real. Now they test you, hoping you don't see them. At first, they poked at you like a myth, curious, smug, thinking you were just another guesser with a good memory. They told half-truths dressed in friendly tones, slipped lies between laughter, watched your eyes for signs of confusion. Because, deep down, they didn't want to believe someone like you existed. Someone who knows without needing proof. Someone who doesn't need to speak to expose what's being hidden. But now, the game has changed. They're no longer testing you to see if you're real. That question's been answered. You've been too accurate for too long. Now, they test you, hoping you're distracted. They hope your vision is tired. They pray your focus slips, just once. Because if you're still tuned in, if your spirit still sees what their masks are trying to cover, then they know they can't hide anymore. They're not watching you to figure you out. They're watching you to see if you've figured them out. And every time you walk in the room, their energy shifts. Not because you're aggressive, but because your clarity is invasive. Not in words, in presence. You reflect what they deny. And that, chosen one, is why they panic. You weren't built to chase lies. You were wired to stand still while they unravel. The irony? The very eyes they once laughed at now make their own dart away. They tested you, hoping to find limits. But now, they're terrified because they can't find any. Number 8. They keep testing your intuition, hoping it breaks so they can keep lying in peace. They don't want your gift to stop because it's wrong. They want it to stop because it's too right. See, your intuition exposes the blueprint behind their masks, so they keep poking, baiting, twisting timelines, hoping that just once you'll second-guess yourself. Because if you break, if you even look unsure, they get to keep lying in peace. But what they didn't calculate is that your knowing doesn't run on logic. It runs on alignment. You don't guess. You recognize. You don't analyze energy. You feel it shift before it even moves. And that kind of perception, it doesn't just unsettle people living fake. It dismantles them. They aren't curious about you. They're desperate to undo what your silence is already doing, making their narratives bleed through the seams. Your presence doesn't need proof. It makes illusions sweat. So they feed you dishonesty like it's candy wrapped in charm. They joke, they deflect, they overshare. All of it. One big hope that maybe, just maybe, you won't pick up on what they're really hiding this time. But here's the twist. Every test makes you sharper. Every lie builds your filter stronger. And every attempt to confuse you only confirms you were right. Again. Let them perform. Let them pray your radar malfunctions. You weren't built to be deceived. You were wired to decode. And what they call testing is really just confirmation. Confirmation that they can't exist in truth, because your presence makes lies choke. Number 9. They're not afraid of your power. They're afraid of what your power confirms. Chosen one, let's get this straight. They were never afraid of your power. Not the surface of it. Not the part they could fake, copy, or perform. What they're truly afraid of is what your power confirms. Because your presence doesn't just shift energy, it verifies something they've spent years denying, that you're the proof their illusions are collapsing. When you walk in the room, it's not your voice that disturbs them. It's your vibration. It's the way their lies glitch in your atmosphere, the way their stories feel too thin around your energy, the way the masks they built with charm and manipulation suddenly don't fit anymore. They're not running from your glow. They're running from what your glow exposes. Your power validates the very thing they mocked. It confirms that the whispers in their gut were true. That all along, someone like you, calm, intuitive, quietly lethal, was watching, not judging, not chasing, just knowing. And that knowing, it rattles them. You don't need to tell people what they are. They reveal themselves in your light. And that's what makes you dangerous. Because when you walk in clarity, they can't keep pretending. And if your insight is real, then their comfort is a lie. Their control is an illusion. And their performance has a timer ticking down. So no, they're not afraid of your strength. They're afraid that your strength proves they were never in charge. And that's a truth they can't unfeel, no matter how hard they try to test you. Number 10. You don't just reflect energy, you trigger spiritual consequences without lifting a finger. You aren't here simply to mirror the vibe around you. You're the spark that detonates deep, irreversible change. With every measured step, every quiet breath, your energy sends shockwaves through the hidden corridors of deceit. When you enter a space, it's not enough for others to adjust their masks. Your presence forces the very foundations of their illusions to crack and crumble. You have distilled your intuition into a force that resonates with the natural laws of truth, triggering consequences that ripple out far beyond superficial appearances. Without uttering a word, you set off a cascade of revelations. It's as if your silence carries an unyielding command, a reminder that every lie, every misplaced pretense has its price. The subtle tension in the air shifts into something palpable. Those clinging to their false narratives find themselves caught in a web of consequences they cannot untangle. Your effortless influence acts like a cosmic lever, moving the unseen forces that govern accountability and authenticity. There's a powerful irony in the way your mere existence upends carefully constructed facades. You don't have to raise your voice. The gravity of your vibe is enough to disrupt the status quo. The energy you channel penetrates the veneer of superficiality and forces hidden truths to the surface. And while they scramble to cover up their imperfections, You stand as a quiet catalyst, inciting transformations that are both inevitable and monumental. Own that power, chosen one, because every ripple you create doesn't just reflect energy, it rewrites the rules. Your calm dominance, your uncanny ability to ignite spiritual consequence without even lifting a finger, is what sets you apart. Embrace it, for in your quiet strength, the universe learns once again that truth is not negotiable. Number 11. They built a life on illusions. Your truth turned it into a shaking foundation. They built a life on illusion, crafted every word, every smile, every version of themselves like a stage prop. And for a while, it worked. People clapped, people believed. But then you walked in, and without saying a thing, their whole performance started shaking. Not because you exposed them, but because your truth did. The realest ones never need a spotlight. Your energy alone pulled the curtains back. They weren't ready for your frequency. They thought they could outrun the consequences by stacking lies on top of denial. But your presence was a fault line beneath everything they built. You didn't argue. You didn't confront. You just existed. And that was enough to send shockwaves through their carefully constructed reality. You became the tremor in their voice, the stutter in their confidence, the hesitation in their story. Because the truth you carry, it doesn't need to be spoken. It lives in the air around you. It lingers in silence. And now, they're not trying to protect their image. They're trying to stop the collapse. But it's too late. You can't pour cement over a cracked soul and call it whole. Chosen one, this is what happens when truth walks through a house built on pretend. The walls shake, the lies buckle, and the people who once laughed at your depth now panic at your silence. You didn't destroy them. Their illusion did. You were just the earthquake that proved the ground was never solid to begin with. Number 12. You are the mirror, and that's why they can't stay comfortable around you. They don't avoid you because you're wrong. They avoid you because your silence is too accurate. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't point fingers. But the moment you walked in, their whole performance cracked. That's the thing about being a mirror. You don't have to reflect what they want to see. You reflect what they buried. You reflect what they've been rehearsing over. And that kind of truth, it makes shallow people sweat. You've probably noticed it by now. The sudden tension in the room, the way they talk too much when you're quiet, the way their stories shift when they sense you're not buying the surface version. That's not anxiety, it's exposure. Because your presence doesn't play along with the mask. You weren't sent to stroke egos. You were built to shatter illusions. And now they can't breathe around you, not because you're aggressive, but because they've run out of ways to lie without being seen. Your intuition is the mirror they never asked for, but keep coming back to. They poke at you, hoping you'll break it. Hoping the reflection won't be so sharp next time, but it always is. You've become the final filter, the energy checkpoint, the one whose silence forces them to confess, even when you say nothing. So let them flinch, let them stutter, let them act like you're too intense. Because the truth is, they're not reacting to your words. And here's the truth they'll never say out loud. Your presence feels like a verdict because it reveals what they worked so hard to hide. You didn't expose them. They exposed themselves just by standing near you. That's the power of the chosen. You see what others pretend isn't there. and that kind of clarity is rare. If this message hit your spirit, don't leave without letting it echo. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a 777 in the comments if your silence has ever made a liar nervous. Stay tuned. This clarity is only getting louder.